Hi and welcome to this hands-on lab on AWS Key Management Service. I'm Maham Tariq from Skill Club, and in this lab we're going to be creating our own customer managed key and take a look at several KMS API calls. Following are the steps that we'll follow in this lab. After logging into my AWS account, I'll open the KMS console and create a new customer managed key. Then we're going to create an EC2 instance and we'll log into our EC2 instance and configure the AWS CLI using the credentials of the key user we created, and then we're going to create a plain text file and use a KMS to perform encrypt and decrypt operations on our file. So let's get started. Here I am in the AWS console, and first of all I'm going to search for IAM because we need to create a couple of users that are going to be able to manage and use the CMK. I'll just create a new user group, scroll down to attach permissions. I'm going to give my group administrator level permissions. So I want you to select administrator access. After creating group, select users and add users. The first one I'm going to create is my key manager. I'll give them programmatic access and console access with a custom password. Deselect the password reset just to make it easier. Hit next and we're going to add this user to the group that we created. So hit next and create the user. So that our key manager is created, I'm going to create another user which is the key user. So I'm back in IAM users and add a user. Our second user is key user. And once again programmatic access and console access. Deselect the password reset and click next. Add them to your KMS group and create user. So now we have got our two users set up. We are ready to go and create our customer master key. Let's search for KMS and select Key Management Service. Select Create Key, and the first option it gives you whether to use a symmetric or asymmetric key. Now with symmetric encryption you got single encryption key which is used for both encrypt and decrypt operations, and then with asymmetric you get a public key and a private key pair. For the majority of use cases we are going to use a symmetric key. If you'd like more detail, then you can just click on the link here and it will open up a page in the documentation which explains everything in a little bit more detail. Now we have to choose where our key material should come from. We'll just go with the default option, that is KMS. We'll select a single region key that is only going to work in my own region. Now just click on next. At this stage we can create an alias and I can call it SCCMK. You can add tags if you want to. I'm just going to skip that and hit next. And this is where we need to add our key administrator. For that I'll select the key manager user that I created previously. Down here you can also specify a different AWS account, so if you've got another account that needs to use this key you can add it here. Similarly you can also add your key user here and then hit next, and it has automatically created our access policy. This is a resource-based policy. Here the actions of key manager and key users are defined. We don't need to change anything here, just click on finish and there we have our CMK. This was our customer managed key, but if you want to see AWS managed key you can see that on the left side here. For the next part we're going to launch an EC2 instance. So head over to the services EC2 and scroll down to launch an instance. We're going to use Amazon Linux to AMI and just make sure you're in the same region as where you created your CMK. So for me, that's going to be US East 1. We'll stick with the T2 micro. We'll create a new key pair. I'm just going to call mine SC key pair. Download the key pair. Make sure you've got auto-assigned public IP set to enable. We've got our security group here which is going to allow us to SSH to our EC2 instance on port 22, and then finally hit launch instances. So let's take a look and see if our instance is ready yet. So there we are, it's up and running now, and you might need to hit refresh just to refresh the view. So I'm going to grab my public IP and copy that to my clipboard and head over to the terminal window on my local machine. The first thing I'll do is to cd into my downloads directory where my key pair is present. I'm just going to find my .pem file and there it is. So now I should be able to log into my EC2 instance. I'm going to paste my public IP. So here I am on my EC2 instance. I'm just going to clear the screen. So the first thing I'm going to do here is create the plain text file that we're going to encrypt. So it's just going to create a simple text file with the text skill curve CMK KMS demo. If we open the text file, we can see the contents of the file. For that, I'll just run the ls command and then cat command on the file name. Here we can see the text of the file. It's the plain text file, but we're going to encrypt it. In order to do that, and using the KMS API, I'm going to need to configure the AWS command line interface, and we're going to do that by using the credentials of the user that we created. So to do that, I'll run the AWS configure, and the first thing it's going to ask is the access key of our user. So head back to the console, come to Identity Access Management Users, select my user, go to Security Credentials, and we're actually going to delete the existing access key and we'll create a new one. So the first thing we need is our access key ID. So I'm just going to copy that and paste that in my terminal window. And now it's asking for the secret access key. So head back to the console and we'll copy our secret access key, enter the default region. Name is going to be US East 1, and for output format, I'm just going to set it to text. So now we've got everything set up to run our encryption commands. To run the encryption commands, we need to provide the key ID of our CMK. I'm going to head to the console and grab my key ID. Come to KMS and here's my key ID. I'm just going to copy that to my clipboard and come back to console. The first command that I'm going to run is AWS KMS encrypt my key ID and plain text file, and then the encrypted output, which is in ciphertext, and then it is decoded using base 64, and then the name of the encrypted binary data file. Now if I run the ls command, I can see that I have two files. Now if I run the cat command using my xyz.txt file, it will show me the text of the file. But if I run the same command on the encrypted file, it won't show me the text of the file. Instead, it will show me the ciphertext. So the next command is going to be AWS decrypt. We provide the name of the ciphertext we want it to decrypt to, and in this case, it's going to be encrypted xyz.txt and base of 64 decoding, and then the decoded file is saved to a new file called decrypted xyz.txt. So let's just run the command, and if we hit ls, we should see a third file. And so I'll just clear the screen and check if this command actually has decrypted our file. I'll run the file and then the cat command on the new decrypted file to check what's the text in the file. And we can see what the text really is. So that means our file has been decrypted using the AWS decrypt command. Now the third command I want to show you is the re-encrypt. So it takes an encrypted file and decrypts it, but without saving a plain text version anywhere. So it's going to decrypt and keep it in the memory, and then it's going to re-encrypt it and save the newly encrypted version of a new file. Now we should have a fourth file, and there it is. And the next thing I want to show you is how to enable automatic key rotation, and you can do that using this command AWS KMS enable key rotation, and you provide the key ID. This will enable key rotation, and AWS will rotate your CMK on an annual basis, and if we want to check that it worked, you should just type AWS KMS get key rotation status and then you provide your key ID. It should return true. So it's time for our last KMS command for this lab, which shows you how to generate a data key. So for encrypting anything over 4 kilobytes, you're going to need a data key. AWS KMS generate data key, we provide key ID and CMK. The type of key we want to create in this case is going to be AES 256-bit data key. That's all for now. I'll just log out of my EC2 instance and then go back to the console and delete all of the resources that I've created only for this lab.